Middle Australia is hurting.
Order.
Middle Australia is hurting. The Treasurer had one job in the budget: to reduce pressure on inflation, not increase it, and the Treasurer failed. Why has the Treasurer brought down a big spending budget which makes life harder for Middle Australia?
Give the call to the Treasurer.
Now I've heard everything, Mr Speaker. The party of deliberate wage stagnation and wage suppression has the nerve to come in here and talk about Middle Australia after everything they did. So that Middle Australia copped it in the neck on their watch. They've got the nerve to come in here and ask about Middle Australia.
The Treasurer will resume his seat. It's 20. The member for McEwen will cease interjecting. The Treasurer has been going for 20 seconds, but I'll hear from the member for Hume.
Relevance, Mr Speaker. The question was about the budget. Middle Australia was in the talking points, not the budget.
You don't get to order. The Treasurer can pick out parts of the question as he sees fit to answer. I know. Order. The member for Hume has raised his point of order. I'm just going to ask the Treasurer to return to the question.
What would he know about relevance, Mr Speaker? I was asked about Middle Australia, and I'm talking about a budget which delivers for Middle Australia.
Order. The Treasurer will resume his seat. Order. I'll hear from the Manager of Opposition Business.
Well, Mr Speaker, the Treasurer is a serial offender, breaching standing orders about offensive words and reflections on members. He just sneeringly said, what would the Shadow Treasurer know about relevance? He ought to withdraw it.
I will hear from the Leader of the House.
Mr Speaker, the point of order the Manager of Opposition Business has just taken is to claim that a word that they use about 27 times every question time is unparliamentary.
Yeah, we're happy with that.
That's what he's just said. In terms, I know they're angry over there, but in terms of a point of order, if the word relevance is now going to be unparliamentary, there's not many words left.
All right. We're 30 seconds into the answer. We've had 2 points of order. I'm just going to ask the Treasurer to return to the question so we can get through this answer. Give him the call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. This was a budget for Middle Australia. Tripling the bulk billing incentive for families with kids under 16, reducing the costs of medicines, energy price relief, the Household Energy Upgrades Fund, getting more Australians into home ownership sooner, additional TAFE and training places, enhanced livability in our cities, more affordable early childhood education and care from the 1st of July, paid parental leave being extended, superannuation on payday. Mr Speaker, this was a budget for Middle Australia, and those opposite presided over a decade of deliberate wage stagnation and wage suppression, which should disqualify them from asking questions in this place about Middle Australia. Now, Mr Speaker, I was also asked to compare and contrast the experience of economic management and budget management under those opposite compared to the experience under us. And I appreciate, Mr Speaker, I'm grateful for the Shadow Treasurer almost every day, Mr Speaker, but especially today, because he gives me the opportunity to remind the Australian people through you of the absolute bin fire of economic irresponsibility which defined their decade in office. Now, Mr Speaker, the worst quarter for inflation was the March quarter last year when they were in office, and they handed down a budget which had $39 billion in net new spending in the budget. $39 billion when inflation was on the way up. After inflation starts moderating, our budget's got a net spend of $20 billion. So half as much spending with an extra $40 billion in savings compared to zero savings in the last budget of those opposite. And in the bizarre alternative universe that they inhabit, they want the Australian people to think that our budget, which puts downward pressure on inflation next year, versus their budget, which put upward pressure on inflation last year, they want to try and distract and hoodwink the Australian people. Now, the markets know better, and the economists know better. And what the markets and the economists have said since our budget was handed down is that our budget achieves the core objective, which is to take some of the edge off these cost of living pressures without adding to inflation. We do that with the energy bill relief that those opposite voted against. We do that with the energy price caps that those opposite voted against. You have absolutely no credibility on Middle Australia or anything else to do with the budget.
Concluded.